Hello, I'm David Hoffman. Welcome to Inspired Clips. This is the second video in the Timelapse Workflow Series. It can be found in the Shooting and Editing Timelapse Footage playlist. I've added some notes. These are going to be in the description of the video for your reference if you need those. I have broken down the steps of developing the images for time-lapse into 4 basic steps. So we're looking at a collection of 192 images. This is called the undeveloped batch. And we're going to go from here. The developed batch looks like this. So we're going to do that in 4 steps. First thing I like to do when editing, when developing images in Lightroom, is add metadata. Now I know when I imported my raw images from my camera that I have filmed a full moon time lapse before. So I'm going to do a search on Lightroom and I am going to look for the metadata on full moons. Here it is. You have keywords, title, description. You can put whatever you want in your metadata. I'm going to right click on that. I am going to say metadata presets, copy metadata. And the ones that I want are already check marked here. I'm going to copy those. And then I'm going to go back to the collection called Undeveloped Batch. A Control A is going to select all 192 are selected. I'm going to right click, go back to Metadata Presets, and paste that metadata. And it is pasting. And that is done. So these 192 images have the metadata that matched the other full moon time lapse. Now one thing just to point this out, this is helpful. These turned purple when I did that. Well, what I do is I assign, when I get a new external hard drive, I assign a letter to that drive and a color. And for example, I just went from the T green, T as in tango, green is this color here, and then I went to U, purple. So what I do is I cycle through the alphabet starting at K, and every time I go to a new drive, I pick a new color. Now those probably aren't ever going to hit the same, and that's how I do that. If I ever need to get back to a raw image, I can look at what's written on that hard drive, and I know when I go to Lightroom, I can go and find that with the copy name. Helpful information there. Okay, and that is step 1, metadata. Step 2, I do what's called global. I created a collection called Global Develop Settings. So I have one image in that folder. I'm going to go to Develop, and you can see that this image has these settings: clarity, dehaze, vibrance, saturation. These are presets that I like. A little bit of sharpening, a little noise reduction, and I have lens corrections. So I'm going to right click on this image. I'm going to go to Develop Settings, Copy Settings. Now these are all check marked. I don't want them all. I'm going to say check none. These are the ones I want. Clarity, dehaze, vibrance, saturation, detail gives me sharpening and noise reduction, and lens corrections. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go back to my undeveloped. I'm back in the undeveloped batch. We are in the develop mode. I'm going to right click. Actually, first I'm going to do Control A is going to select all 192 images again. I'm going to right click, go to Develop Settings, and paste those settings. So these 190, you see it's pasting up there, it's working away. So now these 192 images have some basic developed settings that I like to start with. You can see them, they're the same that we just looked at. Now they're on these new batch of photos. And that is step 2, global develop settings. Step 3 is where I crop the images. Now, this full moon time lapse, which looks like that, and here it is in DaVinci. This is a little tricky if you want to get the moon to come in there on the lower left and go on the upper right in an HD frame. There's a lot of information there to get that to go right. So a real quick way to do that is if you pick the center image. This is 4 seconds in. This is an 8-second video. If you go to the center image in your batch, it doesn't matter how many images you have. You go to the center and you choose that one. So if we go to the undeveloped batch, here we are, and we click on the flagged. I'm going to go to library here. I flagged the first image in a batch, the last image in a batch, the center image in a batch, and the brightest image in a batch. I've got this extra one in here. If you don't know how to flag it, I'll just show you how to do that. Set flag, unflagged. Well, it just went away because we're parked on show flagged photos. So this one is highlighted. If I turn off this filter, we'll go back to that image that was sitting right beside this one, and if you just press a P on your keyboard, it's going to flag it. There it is, it's flagged. So if we go back to flagged, it's going to be back right there. So that's how you flag a photo. Okay, so we're going to go to the center image and we're going to do the crop. We're going to go back to develop. Now I got to make sure we are in the undeveloped section. Okay, there we are. We are going to crop this image. We chose the center photo in the series. We are in the develop setting. Now the crop overlay, if you just push an R on the keyboard, that'll get you there. This is an uncropped original or as shot. That's one and the same. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to enter a custom aspect ratio, and you do that right here. Enter custom. Now I've already done this, so I don't need to do it, but I'm going to give you the information. It's also in the notes in the description on this video. You're going to want to do the number 1 in the first field. You're going to leave that alone. In the second field, you're going to put 1.778. So I'm going to cancel that, but I'm going to choose it right here, 1.778. You're going to want to pick that. Now you notice that it cropped the top and bottom of this image. If you want to do a time lapse and use the full width of the frame, you can drag this up and down and you're going to use the full width of that frame. If you want to crop a tight shot, for example this moon, what you want to do is you don't want to crop any tighter. If you really want to do a tight shot, if you're going to do a 4K video, you don't want to go any tighter than 3840 on the long side. That's the biggest number here on these two. You don't want to go any longer than 3840. If you want to do an HD crop, you don't want to go any tighter than 1920. Okay, and those numbers are important. You want to get as tight as you can if you want a close-up, so you want to get just above 1920 or just above 3840. And then what you're going to do is you're going to drag the moon into the center of the frame like that. And when you say done, then it's cropped. That is on cropping. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the developed images. If I go back to flagged, we're going to move on to the brightest. The next step, step number 4, is called brightest image. So we're going to click on that. There's the brightest image, and it is developed. And the reason you want to develop on the brightest image is because you don't want that full moon to be overexposed in your time lapse. So any time lapse for that matter, sunrise, sunset, whatever you're doing, you want to do your final developing on the brightest image, so there's no portion in that time lapse that becomes overexposed as it's playing, as the final video is playing. So if we take what we're going to do is, here's the developed settings. These are the final. You see those ones that I initially used. The global settings have been applied. And here's the settings that I chose for this time lapse that I think work well. Now this is all really going to depend on personal preference, how you want to do this, what you want your video to look like. If you look at my Adobe stock, there's 8 moons here. Well, so why is there 8? Well, I'm giving people choices. But basically, I did 2 takes. I rolled on it once, and then I did that again. This was a 3-second interval, and I did it twice because I wasn't sure how the clouds were going to go across. So I did 2 takes. So you have 2 takes. I also did the white balance as daylight, and I set the white balance as cloudy. Now that was done in the developed settings of Lightroom. The original image, this is the moon. If that moon is a full moon and it's going to be out bright, that is called Sunny 16. That's 250 f8 exposure at 100 speed. So that's the way I exposed it. And then I changed the white balance and the exposure for 2 different settings and 2 different crops to give people choices. Back to Lightroom, and you can easily change that white balance here between cloudy or daylight, and that's how I did that. So we're going to take, these are the developed batch. We are going to right click on, this is the brightest image. We're going to say develop settings, copy settings. Now this time we're going to choose all. We're going to check all of these. We're going to copy those settings because we like how we edited that, how we developed it. It looks good. Now we're going to go to the undeveloped batch. We have 192 pictures here. Control plus A is going to select all 192. We're going to right click, and we are going to paste the developed settings. We are going to paste those. We are in the develop mode. It is pasting. So if you go back to library here. This is the developed batch. We've been working on the undeveloped batch, and they look the same. It takes them a little time to refresh the thumbnails, but these images now are the same. So that was step 4, developing the brightest image, and then you take that information and you copy and paste it onto all of the other images on your series. Thank you for watching. I hope you found something there that is helpful. Have a good day. Bye for now.